Good afternoon and welcome to A Life of Giving, the groundbreaking podumentary featuring your host, Reverend Richard Klingeisen. And today we have a very special show for you. We're going to be taking a look at the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade predominantly. And of course, the conversation at that point is free to roam wherever it may as the show goes. We have Reverend Richard Klingeisen here on the line. Hello, Reverend Klingeisen. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Hello.
Great to hear. Well, we've got a lot of ground to cover on this very important topic, which actually harkens back to the season premiere of our current second season. So in many ways, it's kind of a callback to that. And it's an issue that has gotten no less important, never will, but a lot more attention. So, a lot to talk about. But as I pointed out to our audience in the introduction, Roe v. Wade was overturned. Tell me, were you surprised?
I was surprised to see that they actually overturned it, primarily because, it was somewhat of a particular decision made by some Supreme Court judges many years before that, back in the early 70s. But I think I am pleasantly surprised that they did overturn it. However, it didn't end the issue of abortion, because that's now, as far as I know, to be decided by states. So we still have the issue there, and it's something that, from my perspective, we should try to be able to overcome, but it's really not being done simply by the decision of the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Right. Why have so many of our leaders in government not condemned the actions against Supreme Court justices, particularly things like the hanging around their homes, the would-be assassin who was going for Justice Brett Kavanaugh?
Great question. I'm not really sure how to answer that particularly, except to say perhaps people in the government simply did not want to become involved with it, just kind of let things play out. Because they didn't agree with the outcome of the Supreme Court in the first place.
Right.
And so they allowed for the difficulties, the threats, especially, as you mentioned, to Brett Kavanaugh and his family.
Right. These are very partisan times, that's no secret. Now, there have been attacks on pro-life pregnancy centers, churches, and more. Is this a war on right to life, or is this a war on Christianity itself? Is America turning on God?
I think there's enough evidence historically to indicate that there are cultural changes and that God is not really that important in many people's lives. As a result, the conflicts that you're speaking about, the attacks on pregnancy centers, churches, yes, I think it could be more a war on Christianity than it actually is on the right to life. Yeah. But they may be using the right to life as a particular goal, or saying that we're trying to let our opinion be known about that, and this is how we're expressing it. However, like I say, I think there's still a lot of people out there that would like to see Christianity just kind of fade out of the picture, because our culture is not a culture that's really based in Christianity or in belief in God.
Right.
And that's causing some major problems.
Do you think people have ultra-radical beliefs simply to spite the opposition?
I think there are various organizations or groups of people that do. in terms of what's going on in our culture and trying to oppose others, whether it's whether we're talking about the Catholic Church as the total church, or whether we're talking about various other groups such as Protestants, Jewish traditions, synagogues. And I know that they all don't have a real strong persuasion to say we're against abortion, for example. They may be much more pro-choice than Catholic teaching would allow for.
Mm-hmm.
But there's various organizations that just really want to express opposition to the Catholic Church tradition and its beliefs and the efficacy that it has in terms of the rights of the unborn, and in terms of showing respect for all of life.
Are you surprised by how many everyday people actually approve of ending a human life? What exactly is going on with the soul of our nation?
I am surprised that everyday people do approve of ending human life. And specifically, we're talking about the unborn at this time. But we also know that there's the issue with the passive euthanasia, end of life euthanasia, asking doctors to, give them medication so they can end their lives, or to end their life simply because they don't want to live with whatever they might be struggling with from a perspective of illness or weakness of life in their human bodies. But it's I think a kind of a sense of self-interest, what people really are thinking about, what they want, and not necessarily thinking about the fact that we're dealing with two human lives, an adult mother and an unborn child. And even though there's conversations, or some will say, that's not a child, that's just some material that's in the mother's womb, and so they feel that or think that they have a right to discard it. That's not really what we're beginning to see and know about it from a scientific point of view. Mm-hmm. This is really another human person growing, developing in the mother's womb, and we need to, in some respect, find ways to support it rather than end a human life.
Yeah, well, a common argument of pro-choicers is that pro-lifers don't care about women. Why is this a standard go-to argument, and why, in this pro-choice belief system, is a mother's life more important than that of her unborn child? And this is an extension of what we were just talking about, but if you could take it from that angle, that'd be great.
I think pro-choicers are putting more emphasis, obviously, on the rights of the mother, the woman, in this case. And the question is, why are they doing that? Is it because of self-interest for the adult woman, and because there are multiple reasons why she might decide to abort her baby? Yeah. It could be she doesn't want it, she doesn't have time to take care of it. Is the child diagnosed as being somehow physically impaired, and that information is given to her, and so she doesn't want that child? However, it is a child, and that child should also be respected as wanting to live and contribute to society as well. We read historically, that there are people that are great scientists, authors that initially, if their mother would have decided to abort them, they would not be around at all. And yet they've become good contributors to our culture, to our society, and we should not try to interfere with that. So this pro-choice belief system it raises some questions in terms of where are the arguments for why are people advocating that?
Yeah.
Are they thinking about the true lives that are involved here? Do they see the child as worthwhile as well as the mother and try to keep both of them alive if there's no conflict of interest with health issues or whatever? We should be showing respect for both the woman and the child.
Very well stated. Is abortion evil? If so, does that mean its proponents are evil people as well?
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of my Catholic background, and I would say, yes, it is evil. We are taking the life of a child. And does it mean that proponents are evil people? It depends, I think, on how they understand that child that's developing. If we don't have the full understanding or knowledge of that this is a human life, then perhaps we are somewhat excused, but we do need to get the information out in the public. Say, we know enough now, and science continues to add to the fact that within a certain couple of weeks, the child is developing, and many of the abortions that have been performed are later, and we know the child experiences pain, suffering. It's just not an appropriate thing to be doing. That we should try to bring the child into the world and support it, and help it grow. Even if the mother doesn't want the child, but we have other means of helping through adoption agencies. We often hear that there are multiple couples looking for a child, and they can't find any. Too many of them have been aborted, but at the same time they're saying they'd be just very grateful to accept and adopt and help that child to grow.
Can a Catholic be pro-abortion?
I would say simply no. If you are a true practicing Catholic, and understanding that there are a lot of Catholics, however, to kind of keep in mind that they're Catholic in name, but in practice there is some difficulties there, some shortcomings. They don't fully understand what their Catholic tradition, their Catholic faith is really all about, what it's taught us in the scriptures and in the teachings of our catechisms, the teachings that have been handed on to us in terms of respect for the unborn and the newborn. So, can a Catholic be pro-abortion? I guess if that definition of Catholic is they understand what it is to live a life, and how to respect life, then I would say